Hello, this is my view for who was Augustus Caesar. Although you might know of Augustus Caesar from brief appearances in Luke's account of the Nativity, he was one of the most influential people in the history of the world. He was the adopted son of Julius Caesar. Augustus Caesar built upon his father's legacy and genius and established himself as one of the most brilliant politicians in history because of his ruthlessness, conservative views, and his master propagandist. He was a master propagandist. Point 1. As chosen heir of Julius Caesar, Augustus saw himself as a continuation of his adopted father. The fact that Julius was betrayed by his closest friends led Augustus to pursue his path with utter and complete ruthlessness. Augustus learned from both Julius Caesar's brilliant ascent to power and how to shape events. However, his assassination by some of his closest friends showed that absolute ruthlessness was necessary to rule over Rome. In Julius's will, he left his adopted son, Augustus, 3/4 of his estate. He went on 5 campaigns in all, saying, quote, Secanus says, quote, the underlying motive of every campaign was that Augustus felt it was his duty above all to avenge Caesar and keep his decrees in force. So he ended up hunting down every single person that was involved in his father's death, including Mark Antony and Cleopatra. That was the last of the Roman Civil War. This was the last battle that he needed to get rid of all of the people involved in his father's death. After the Romans Senate declared war on Cleopatra, Antony ended up betraying the Romans and joining Cleopatra's side. After a victory for Augustus, Cleopatra and Antony withdrew and accepted defeat. Augustus ordered them to commit suicide, so they both went into their rooms, and when word was that Cleopatra had died, Mark Antony had also prepared to die. He eventually stabbed himself, but the wound was shallow, and he ended up not dying. So he just lay there on the couch in pain. Eventually, Cleopatra's secretary came to bring him her tomb. He ended up, after Mark Antony realized that Cleopatra was not dead, he ended up dragging himself into her chambers and pulling him up a dumbwaiter type system, which is just a pulley that he used to pull himself up because her bed was 20 feet high or so, something like that. And at that point, he ended up dying when he got onto her bed. After that, Cleopatra then committed suicide as well. Point 2. After avenging his father's death and defeating every competitor, he now had to settle down to ruling his empire. He did this by seeking to erase the history of ruthlessness and rebrand himself as a patriotic conservative, and demand to restoring the good old days of early Rome. Much of his later career was designed to obscure just how furious he had been during his climb to the top. He realized that rebuild the city of Rome, he had to restore his faith and values of old Rome. That to say, he needed to receive the customs of the past and return Rome to old-fashioned conservatism. Some ways he did this was by rebuilding the moral decay of Rome and made 2 laws targeting married couples and the birth rate. Penalizing unmarried men and childless couples, an attempt to increase birth rate. During the Civil Wars, many temples got destroyed and lost faith, during the Civil Wars, many temples got destroyed and lost faith in the old gods. And to Augustus, restoration of the old religion helped restore confidence of the people. So he ended up restoring 82 temples. He also revived some festivals, like the Lupercalia. Lupercalia was the antonym of our modern-day Valentine's Day. It was celebrated every year in honor of Lupercus, the god of fertility. Participants in Lupercalia would sacrifice puppies and young goats and place the blood on their forehead. Then the blood would be wiped down by wool soaked in milk. They would then eat very large meals and drink a lot of wine. They would skin the goats and make loincloth and run around the city whipping women. This was thought that as many whipped as you would get would be a better chance that you would have more children. Augustus assumed the role of high priest of Rome, and when he died, he was treated as a god. People even reported seeing him ascend into the heavens, and that in ancient Rome is proof that he had become one of the gods. A quote by Anthony Everett says, quote, "Their traditional virtues of austere duty and healthy poverty were being eroded." Point 3. Augustus was worried of having the same fate as his father, so he became a master propagandist who calculated displays of simplicity were designed to demonstrate his connection to the common people. Augustus didn't seek to be named king, but called princeps, or the first citizen. He did this so that the senators and other influential men would not kill him, by them thinking that he thinks he's so much higher than all of the other people. This was one thing that he saw with his father, Julius Caesar, and how he ended up dying. He appealed to the old-fashioned patriotism by making a huge, successful effort to retrieve the standards of legions lost in Parthia. He also did things that the average Roman did, like wear homespun cloth or going fishing. Basically anything that he could do that would make him look very normal. He was also extremely abstemious in his habits and cultivated a simple peasant persona in his choices of food. He ate extremely simple meals. On one account from his personal papers, it was indicated he only had an ounce of bread and a few grapes or dates and a little wine. Even his private quarters of Rome were furnished with little furniture. This is similar to how different very rich people such as Warren Buffett live, where he still lives in the house that he purchased in 1950 and eats different foods such as McDonald's instead of the exquisite lifestyle that he could have, even though he's worth over $85 billion. A quote by Augustus says, quote, "Not even a Jew, my dear Tiberius, feasts so scrumptiously on his Sabbaths as I have today," end quote. So, although that you may not know of Augustus Caesar from his brief appearances in Luke's account of the Nativity, he was actually one of the most influential people in the history of the world. The adopted son of Julius Caesar, Augustus, built upon his father's legacy and genius to establish himself as one of the most brilliant politicians in the history of the world because of his ruthlessness to go and kill everybody who was involved in his father's deaths, his conservative views, and his master propagandist to prevent himself from being killed like his father before him. Thank you.